welcome back to another video on the channel today. We're back with a daily race C that was on yesterday at Interlagos, driving the Group 4 cars. You can see this is my qualifying lap. I decided to put this up with the video just to show you it was actually a personal best, and I did it so fast there. It only took me about 10 minutes to get this lap done. You can see the 1 minute 37.257 was done with the Evo. I tried that out. Didn't really like the car. I spent about 10 minutes with it. Didn't like the car at all. I could have got it down to probably a 37.0, 36.9, but I wasn't keen on that car. So went straight on to back to the Megane, one of my old favourite cars. You know, I love this car. This really suits my driving style. The way it handles fits the way I like a car to be. Loose on the rear, you can really chuck it in and carry speed through corners. That's why I like this car. So you can see this lap was going really well, pretty much hooking up all the corners. A few little errors here and there, but overall an okay lap considering that this was only within about 10 minutes of driving this car. So everything looking okay on this lap so far, and it was a personal best that I've done. I think I've done a few 37.0s in the past, which took me a little bit longer to get to when I was using the cockpit view. Now using this view, it's just so much faster to get up to speed, and that is one of the main reasons why I prefer this view now, because straight away within 10 minutes and I've hit a reasonably good lap. You can see on the look in the mirror, you can see how far ahead I'd only done a few laps there. The lap that I'd got on the board with the Megane was only at 30, I think it was like a 37.4 or 37.3, and then straight away managed to get myself into the 36s with a 1 minute 36.9. That put me to P5 by the end of the night. I think it was around midnight that I last checked it, and it was still in P5 in the top 10 stars. So I was really happy with that lap, and obviously put me to start from pole in the race. Now that lap was done in the morning when I had about 20 minutes spare, whilst the video was rendering on the PC for yesterday's video. So I jumped back on late, and it was around, I think it was in the evening, around 8 o'clock, something like that, 9 o'clock. Jumped back on, and this was the race I did. Now I had no warm-up, so I was a little bit worried about this race, because normally I like to just have at least 2-3 laps just on time trial, just to get into the rhythm and get used to obviously the car again, because it does take a lap or two just to get up to speed. But I thought I'll just jump into this race, see what happens. I knew this race would be a no-stop strategy because I've done this race before a while ago. So starting the race, you can see from P1, a lot of Meganes in this race obviously because of its fuel saving ability, and it's pretty much the fastest car in race trim for this track. So I'm using the Megane, obviously my favourite car, one of my favourite cars in the game really. They do need to BOP check it a bit. I think they need to just add some weight to it. Just maybe 1% weight would pretty much make this car very close to a lot of other cars. I think it wouldn't be so overpowered, but it would still be a good car. So they really need to just try that out. Maybe that'll happen on the next patch. As you can see, P2 having a little look, but I decided to go defensive. Straight off the off, I wasn't going to go aggressive with my fuel. I think P2 wanted to go aggressive to get away from the other cars, which was it's a really hard one what to do. Is I prefer just keeping the fuel consumption fairly even, but the argument is you go aggressive and you avoid a lot of the other cars catching you up that are in slower cars, but will be doing the pitting at around lap 5 or 6. So there's different ways of running this race. I wasn't really up to speed at this point. You can see coming out of here, I was actually got a little bit of a lead, got my gap up to about 6/10 of a second, 7/10 of a second, but then coming through this corner, ran a little bit wide. You can see how wide I run, go onto the side, nearly onto the grass, but just get away with it. But you can see P2 catches right up on me there. He's obviously using a lot more fuel than I am in this phase, and I run wide again. I have to give him space there, so I go to the right hand side. He goes down the inside, try and give him space on the inside, getting on the power. I can obviously get on the power a lot earlier than him. He makes a little bit of an error, loses the rear slightly, so I get back in the lead, decide to let the Evo through so that I can try and then pick up the Evolution slipstream. You're going to see that going wide, then tucking in behind the Evolution, then the Megane tucks in behind me, and we're back in formation. But the Evo I wasn't worried about because he will be pitting. So you can see, looking back on myself now, going into turn 1, and P3 I think misses his braking, but luckily because of the view I use now, I saw it late and left the door. I had to leave the door open. You saw the Lamborghini also made an error there, running wide, and luckily didn't take anyone out. But P2 I think misses braking, it wasn't on purpose, I think it was just an error. And luckily, because I use this view now where I see him in the mirror, and again looking in the mirror, you can see that there's a yellow Megane having a look, and I could see he was just going to dive bomb it. So I just let him take it. I wasn't going to turn in, but he doesn't even turn into the corner. He doesn't even look like he makes an effort to turn in, even though I left the door open for him, and he actually gives me a little tap on the side, which was luckily, again, no penalties, and this is showing the improvement in the penalty system in my view. You still do get penalties, but it has to be quite significant contact, I find. I'm not picking up any penalties recently, and luckily no penalties in this so far, but unfortunately I've lost quite a lot of time in this little bit of battling. Obviously I couldn't really do much about it. P2, when he made that move, which really wasn't a move, he just late braked, lost me a bit of time because I had to back out the corner, and then P3 that's in front of me there just chucked it up the inside, and if he would have took his normal line it would have been okay, but he just didn't take a line at all and just ended up clipping me a bit. But no massive real loss at the moment. You can see I'm about 3 seconds already though behind P1, and I'm just about picking up a slipstream with P3, but you can see I'm short shifting still. I'm not using up my fuel at this phase of the race. I think a lot of other drivers possibly were using up their fuel at this stage, whereas I'm just trying to keep the fuel consumption under control. But I've got another car that's going to be a worry behind me now. I've got a Megane, the other version of the Megane, which is insane in the straight line speed. Just look at the difference down the straight now whilst I'm picking up a slipstream. He's just going to coast by on that inside. I see him obviously making that move. I stay wide and then try and get an undercut here and just try and get a clean exit, but because that Megane is so slow through the corners that's in front of me, I had to back out the corner and lost quite a bit of time again. So you can see the delta to the lead drivers is just increasing now. And then again down the straights I can't live with that Megane. There's nothing you can do in the trophy for Megane versus the front wheel drive Megane. But this is why the front wheel cars are very fast down the straight, because they're fast down the straights but they just can't keep the tyre wear. And that's why they're not overpowered, the front wheel drive cars, in my view. A lot of people claim them to be overpowered, but they're just not. What it is they might be okay for some time trials on certain tracks, but even then a lot of other cars are faster, but in the race they're pretty much pointless. They just use up their front tyres too much, so it's not really a good car for race conditions. But you can see myself now right on the rear of that the front wheel drive Megane, just trying to pick up his slipstream. And during this phase now, during the corners, I was just using so little fuel because I was in, like, I think it was a mixture of 5 and 6, because I've got a bit of slipstream off him and my car's so much faster through the corners. Starting to get into a bit of a rhythm now as we drive this track a little bit more. I did expect obviously to take 2-3 laps just to get warmed up, and then once I'm a little bit warmed up I should be able to start getting a little bit more consistency and get my pace back. But obviously I didn't lose too much overall, because during that phase at the start when I really wasn't in a rhythm of the track, I did a fair amount of fuel saving, and now I'm in the slipstream of that Megane in front of me. I can just save some fuel down the straights and just try and hang in there and use the toe to try and drag me along a bit, and then just keep saving fuel behind him. There's no point me trying to battle with him because I can't really get past him anywhere, because as soon as we get to a straight, that Megane in front of me, the front wheel drive Megane, will just pull away at an insane rate, and the trophy can't live with the front wheel drive Megane in terms of straight line speed. So you can see going down the straight now, I've got a Lamborghini behind me closing in, but I'm not too worried about him. I'm picking up a little bit of a slipstream. I can brake really late for these corners as well. In the Megane trophy you can brake a lot later than a lot of the other cars, so no real worry there. You can see that Lamborghini running a little bit wide out of that corner and losing a bit of time as he can't get on the power, and possibly picked up a penalty, because you do pick up penalties now for running wide out of that corner. But you can see now on board that I'm doing the fuel saving. I'm using that fuel mixture 3 to try and save as much fuel as possible. The only issue obviously is in this race, to get P1 now I've got quite a lot of work to do. You can see 4 seconds already ahead of me is P1. I think P2 is the car that I need to worry about, and he's actually just overtook the Evolution to put himself in the lead. I think they're battling away there. It's around 4.2 seconds ahead. You can just see them up front fighting with each other for that lead position. You can see they're going just up ahead, the two cars very close together, and that Megane's obviously able to pick up a slipstream as well, so he's probably been able to do some fuel saving at this phase. I don't know whether he did as much as myself as I was at this phase of the race. He's over 4 seconds ahead, and obviously them 2 overtakes, which really lost me quite a bit of time. I wanted to really stay at the front of the order in this race, and then obviously save more fuel, and then the last few laps go a little bit more aggressive and just pull away from the slipstream. But this is going to have to be run a little bit different now, this race. As you can see, finally getting the laps together. Lap 4, got into a bit of rhythm, got my lap down to a 39.3, and this is the type of pace that I wanted to be hitting consistently, because when you're saving fuel, a low 39, you know, a no stop strategy is a low 39. If I was obviously going for a strategy where I was going to pit, I would be going all out, hitting late 37s, early 38s, but it's just pointless at this track. You cannot beat a no stop strategy in the Megane really at this track. It just, you can't make up the time with a pit stop. It's too long, and the fastest way is to not pit with the Megane trophy. So you can see myself just hanging in there in the slipstream, using that mixture 2 again there, even on the straights sometimes, just to save fuel. And you're going to see now the difference through the corners of these two cars. You look at the difference in speed I can carry into the corner, the lines I can take in. I got a much better front end than that the front wheel drive Megane, and now he's holding me up, so I'm using as little fuel as possible, because there's no point me using 2 mixture, 3 mixture. I might as well go to mixture 4, 5, and then back it up to 2 mixture for these acceleration zones or something, or 1 mixture for the acceleration zones. You can see there now, look, you can see as soon as we get to accelerating, that other Megane, the front wheel drive Megane, just going to pull away, and this is where I've just got to hang in on the slipstream with 1 mixture, short shift it as much as possible. But he's ran wide out of that corner now, which was kind of good but kind of bad, because now I haven't got the slipstream to help me out down the straight, so I'm going to have to go a little bit more aggressive with my fuel. You can see though I've done a really good job so far in this race. At the end of this lap we've got 6 laps to go, and I've got 6.2 laps at this stage, so pretty much as I go over the line, 6 laps of fuel left, and I'm doing reasonably well. So I don't know if the other drivers at this point in the race were in as good a position as I was, but I've got 4.7 seconds to make up to the lead driver, who is in the Megane, who's also going to probably be, you know, I didn't know for sure if he'd be on the same strategy as me, but majority of people driving the Megane Trophy were on a no-stop strategy and they weren't going to pit. So I've got a lot of catching up to do. You know, nearly 5 seconds to gain in just over, well, 5.5 laps, nearly 6 laps to do this. So it's going to have to be on average around, you know, a second a lap maybe, or a little bit less for the first few laps. And then at the end, if I've saved them a little bit more fuel, I can really drive a bit more aggressive and just hope to catch them up on the final laps. You can see now the Evolution just up ahead is also lost another position where he must be struggling with the tyres. I do know that the Evo does struggle with the tyre wear. You know, the Megane, no issues in that area, because it's just obviously got so much front end grip and obviously rear grip as well, and it's mid-engined car, so you don't get that tyre wear, mid-engine rear wheel drive. Whereas the Evo is 4-wheel drive, and that's just going to chew its tyre wear up and have issues, and that's why that car has to pit also. Also because of the fuel, it can't maintain this type of speed to the end without pitting. You see, going through that sector again, another blue sector. You can see the lap times have been, the last 2 laps have been very consistent, back into the 39s, and now I've just got to try and push a little bit more. I've got to start gaining on them, but saving fuel at the same time. I don't want to be, the temptation at this point now is to just burn your fuel away and get right up to them and then think I'll just save the fuel at the end. But I had to have confidence of just being very tactical and just be cautious with the fuel, using mixture 2 through this phase, but being aggressive through the corner. You can see, trying to carry the speed and then into 1 mixture for the straight. And even then, I'm not going to be too aggressive with my gear changes. You can see I'm not going to over rev the car. You can rev 4th gear up to 120 miles per hour. I'm changing gear at about 111, 112. It's going to lose me a bit of time on straights, but it's going to save the fuel. And again, you can see coming through this corner, hit P2, obviously getting a bit of pressure. He saw that I'm behind him. I don't know if he had pressure or he just made a silly mistake, but I think I would have caught him anyway fairly comfortably by a few laps, because I was gaining on him so much through the corners, let alone depending on what fuel he would have had for the last bit of stretch of laps, obviously on the straights. It would have been interesting to see, but I think I would have had that one covered. But now I've got 4.3 seconds to make up on P1 there, with just over 4 or 5 laps to go. So this is going to have to be some really clean, fast driving while saving fuel. I don't know whether he's going aggressive on that fuel. I really don't know. I'm trying to look after the tyres as well during this phase, because, you know, 11 laps with the tyre wear on ×7, I think it was, or something like that, ×8 or 7. It's a lot to ask from any car. Even though this is good on its tyre wear, you've still got to be cautious and make sure you're looking after them tyres. So I was trying to be gentle on the throttle, not too aggressive on my inputs in terms of chucking the car into the corner, and obviously using that ×2 mixture through some of the corners and 3 mixture puts less load on the front tyres and helps them out for wear. So now I've just got to concentrate and see if I can close in on P1. Obviously, what was going through my head as well was that move. You know, during the race, I wasn't sure if it was a deliberate attempt to overtake. When I look back, it looked like he missed his braking and just turned it into an overtake. But I wanted to get a little bit of revenge for that, get a move done, and get myself back into P1. So the aim now is just to close in on him, put him under pressure, let him see that delta come down. You know, let him be aware of the delta slowly coming down, and if he's going to start using up his fuel, it could cost him towards the end of the race. You can see now he's just up there, just ahead of me now. He's on the same screenshot on some replay angles, and I'm really starting to push. You can see the car's starting to look a little bit more aggressive through the corners. I'm using more of the track. I'm trying to really be aggressive on turning. You can see the front end's still very positive on my car. A lot of tyre wear left. Haven't used up all my tyre. You can see definitely closing in there. You could see him just going through the shot on the start of that screen then, and going a little bit wide there, trying to take too much speed through the corner, but got away with it. Just drifted a little bit through the corner and didn't lose that much time, maybe a tenth or two. The one corner I was still having a little bit of issue with was this final corner where I was braking too late. I obviously needed a bit more practice before I jumped on racing, but eventually started getting a bit better at the corner. But I was losing a little bit of time to him there. I think he was using a lot of his revs going up the hill to try and pull away, but that was just going to use your fuel up also. So it could have been that the reason why he was pulling away a little bit on that section of track. I'm not too sure, but you can see there now I'm definitely closing in and getting closer to P1. This is going to be a very close ending. You can see on screen that, you know, I'm gaining every single corner, every single straight. You can see I've got more fuel. I pretty much knew I'd have more fuel than him, because the way he pulled away at the start, it was clear he was driving a lot more aggressive, and I've got that gap down by a full second there. It was on 4.8, it's now on 3.8. So closing in, and he must be feeling a little bit of pressure now at this stage. He clearly knows that I've probably got more fuel than him, and that he's got to be as aggressive as he can, but save as much fuel as he can. He's also got a penalty in this phase, which was kind of a benefit to myself, because I know if I get anywhere near the rear of him, at this phase now I don't have a penalty, so if I'm reasonably close I'm going to probably beat him over the line anyway. So P3 is quite a bit behind now, 5 seconds, and that's increasing quite fast now, obviously because I'm putting a little bit more speed in. I think if I didn't lose the few seconds that I lost at the start, this would be a lot closer at this phase. I think I'd be pretty much level with P1, and hopefully I would have been in a lot better fuel situation. But now I'm still feeling reasonably confident. We've got 2 laps to go after this lap, and the gap is just over 3 seconds. You can see there 3.5, 3.8 seconds, and I'm closing and closing and closing. This is the point where I was trying to be a bit more aggressive on the throttle, because that's where I was losing out a little bit, but I got a little bit too eager there, trying to put the throttle down, just about saved the rear end, and still in with this battle. That was a close one to being wiped out, and I've got the gap under 3 seconds. You can see 2.8, 2.9 seconds, so another second gain there within 1 lap. So gaining on him every single lap by quite a big margin. 2 laps to go, and I've got 3 seconds to gain, and it felt like it was coming towards me, this race. Now once you start seeing someone up ahead of you more, you start getting more motivation, and I think it also affects the driver in the lead when he sees you gaining as well. He starts getting a little bit more nervous, scared to push the car as much. As the gap now down to 2.4 seconds. This is where I'm starting to really start pushing. I've got the fuel, I've got the confidence now with the track. It did take me a while to use. You can see getting the gear change perfect on the exit there. Short shifting it still though, not overdriving the car, making sure that I've got the fuel for the last lap, because that's the lap that it looks like I'm going to be able to make a move on as we jump through to the replay camera. And you can see now how close I'm getting to him when he pops into the camera angle, just in a few seconds time. You can see going through this corner, trying to keep it nice and tidy, not being too aggressive, just trying to keep it smooth. I know I'm gaining, I know I'm catching him, and it's going to be extremely close. It's on the final lap. I knew it would be a final lap by the time I catch him. As you just saw him there going through the corner, and he can only be just over a second ahead now. He must be feeling the nerves at this stage of the race, and I feel like the momentum was with myself now. I was really feeling like I was going to catch him and get past him. Going through his corner, ran a little bit wide there, trying to get on the power too early. I knew as soon as I did that I would pick up a penalty. Luckily it was only I think it was 9/10 of a second penalty, but it put me pretty much equal with his penalty. I think he probably had around that type of penalty, 1 second or something. It couldn't be anything less than that really. So equals now, so I've got to pass him. I can't rely on just being behind him on the finishing line. I need to get past him, and you can see now, look how close I'm getting through the corners. I'm driving really aggressive, using all the track up, using more of the power of the car now. I've got the fuel to do it. I've got a little bit probably over than what I had for the rest of the lap, so I can drive a little bit more aggressive on the straights. And if I can pick up that slipstream through the corners, I feel confident. I've saved the tyres, I've kept the car in good condition for this last lap, and you can see now driving on board with P1 how much I'm gaining through this lap. He's obviously struggling with the fuel and obviously tyre wear. His fuel must be a lot worse than mine at this stage. And going through his corners again, I'm just keeping the mixture on level 2. I'm not going too aggressive because this isn't the place to overtake on this part of the track, but getting very close. Now look at the front end, the difference between the cars on the front end, and again on this corner, look at the difference, how tight I can take the line through there. I've got so much more grip on the cars. He runs wide, I run a little bit wide, and now at this point I just seen the big massive gap and thought, I'm having that. I go up the inside, give him space on the outside. I think he decided to just let me through there. No point battling it. I don't think he's got the fuel to do it. I'm into P1 now, and I've just got to make sure he doesn't pick up the slipstream on the straight. But good news is, it looks like I've got reasonable fuel to just drive this aggressive now up this hill. So I'm going to let this car rev a lot more now. You can see there, revving it out more than I was before. Not as much as you physically can, but pretty much to the end of the bar, and then changing gear. So it looks good. Going down the straight, I've just got to get rid of that penalty. He's also got to get rid of a penalty, and I think he actually runs out of fuel there. So he actually completely lost his fuel before the finishing line anyway, so I think I would have had it no matter what. But a great race, a great comeback, over 4 seconds behind, kept my head down, kept the tyres in good condition, looked after the fuel, and still got the win. So really happy with that win, and I was really happy because that was my first race on and the first race of the day. I obviously did the qualifying in the morning, then just jumped straight back on, so it was good to get a win like that. Having a little look now, look at the difference in the tyre wear between myself and P2. When we jump on board with myself, look at the front tyres. It's the front tyres that are really in better condition. Look at that, so much more life left in my front tyres compared to P2. And also look at the fuel, he was completely out when we go back on board with his. He had no fuel at all, but the tyre wear was so much more on his front tyres. The rears were pretty similar, but his fronts took a lot more wear, and that was because I was looking after them really well during that race. So really happy with that. We'll have a little look at them overtakes at the start, see if we go back and have a little look, as this was caused by my own error running wide really. He goes up the inside, I'd give him the space on the entry and then just stay wide. He can't carry as much speed because he's got to be a bit more cautious when getting on the power. P3 then comes up behind in the evolution, sees the gap. I let him have that gap, run quite wide, and then just slowly tuck back into the slipstream of that evolution. And then the Megane behind me obviously is going to come for a move, and you're going to see now, I don't think this was deliberate. It looks like he was just behind there, and I think at this point he just misses his braking slightly, or he just chucked there. It looks like he just turns it into a move that he didn't really want to do. And luckily I give him a bit of space. The Lamborghini behind also so close to wiping me out, but then the other Megane obviously goes for the same type of move, just chucks it up the inside. I kind of knew this was happening, I could see it in the mirror. I didn't want to fight it. There's no point when you're saving fuel, there's no point battling too much. I just let him go. I give him space, but even then he doesn't turn for the corner, he just goes straight on there. Didn't make it the corner as well, maybe he carried too much speed. Don't think it was deliberate, just carried too much speed through the corner and clipped the front of my car. So I lost a lot of time. There you can see how much time I lost to P2 in just that little short space of half a lap or so. Now this is the move for the lead on the final lap. You can see going through this corner, I even put the throttle down a bit too early, trying to get a really strong exit. He went too early, even more so front end understeered, and at this point he left the door open, so I just chucked up the inside. I think he kind of knew that one was coming. He was struggling for the fuel, and I think if I didn't get him there I would have got him on the straight anyway, because he just had no speed down that straight, and he obviously ran out of fuel anyway. So I think P1 would have been mine no matter whether I made for that move or not. But luckily into the lead and got that win, as he didn't have any fuel to even come back with any sort of speed there. So a great result after not the best start to the race, obviously losing them few places on the opening lap pretty much. Lost all the way down to P3 or 4. Not great, but managed to bring that back up. Got the rhythm going obviously after not really practicing before the race, and got a really solid result. So hope you enjoyed that video. I thoroughly enjoyed the race. I'll be back with more of these videos every single day. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you click that subscription button, click the notification button also, so you don't miss any videos. I do upload every single day as much as possible, and make sure you click that thumbs up button if you've enjoyed this video. I do appreciate every single person that clicks that thumbs up button. Thanks again for watching, everyone.